For Barack Obama, how are you going to do that? You may wave a magic wand? No, Donald Trump actually just picked up the phone and called Carrier and said, well, there will be consequences if you take these jobs away. But more importantly, we're going to have a better business environment. We're going to drop the corporate tax rate. We're going to get rid of a lot of the regulations. Lo and behold, jobs have been saved. Now, we're heading into Christmas. That means 1,000 families don't have to worry about what their Christmas season is going to be like. They don't have to worry about their mortgage in the future. They don't have to worry about their car payment. Maybe they got sons and daughters on their way to school, off to college, and now they don't have to worry about their payment plan for college that they had put in place many years ago. And I, for one, am grateful that Carrier stayed. I'm grateful that President-elect Trump cared enough to call and help work out a deal. I'm happy for those families, and my next air conditioner that I buy is going to be a Carrier. If I have to pay a little more, I'll pay a little more. That's fine. Former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, is with us. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I think this is a perfect example of why Trump is so different. I mean, he cuts through the baloney. He's proactive. He's an entrepreneur. He tries to find a solution. It's what you'd think people would want in an effective American president. I think it's a remarkable performance on his part.
I want to play for you. I have a montage of women on The View. And by the way, this has pretty much been CNN 24/7 since this deal was announced. Number one, everyone's speculating that some type of special tax deal was brokered with Donald Trump. That's not what happened, as I understand it. The people of Carrier have just said that it's going to be a better business environment, and he's going to deal with regulations that impact their business, and he's going to deal with a tax structure that negatively impacts them so that they can remain competitive and keep their products being built in America. But listen to the analysis that you hear. You would think what he did is horrible.
Donald Trump claims that he scored a big victory for keeping jobs in America. He says he's struck a deal with the Carrier air conditioning firm that will keep them from moving to Mexico, saving almost 1,000 jobs. Now, there's no details of the deal that anyone has seen, but, do you think Americans are going to say, oh, well, see, he's keeping his promise? Or are they going to wonder, what did you have to give up in order to keep folks here?
Yeah. I hope they do that. I think people, though, do just read the headlines and they're thinking, oh my goodness, he's bringing jobs back. But at what cost to the American worker?
The problem is that we're losing jobs to robots, not to Mexicans. That's the problem. You're losing it to technology. Also, he saved 1,000 jobs. President Obama saved 1 million jobs by bailing out the auto industry, and people were against that because it was a stimulus.
The unemployment rate is at an all-time low. It's 4.9%. Donald Trump is saying he's bringing 25 million jobs here. How's he going to do that?
Let's see. Wait and see.
Let's see.
On who's behind?
Well, we don't know how he got it. We don't know what the deal says.
No, we don't know what the deal says, but,
But saving jobs is not the same as creating jobs.
Yeah.
It's giving me a headache, first of all, of the 11 million Americans here, 11 million illegals here in the country. 80% of them work, and maybe Joy Behar can cite the unemployment number all she wants, but they don't count the chronically unemployed or the lowest labor participation rate since the 70s. I mean, you listen to that and you think, oh, Donald Trump makes a call, Carrier made a decision, and you would think that it's the worst thing that ever happened listening to these people. Mr. Speaker, what do you think?
Well, look, I think the left is just almost losing their minds at the idea of a Trump presidency. And so anything Trump does is going to be attacked. But it is ironic that the movement that at one time cared about working Americans now has all these very highly paid pseudo-intellectuals who forget that, as you put yourself, 1,000 families are going to have a better Christmas. And frankly, every small business in that town is going to have a better Christmas because Donald Trump intervened when Barack Obama wouldn't and Hillary Clinton wouldn't. And in the old days, the old Democratic Party would have been delighted on behalf of all those families and would have understood the human implications of what's going on. But the modern, ideologically left-wing, out-of-touch, very highly paid Democratic elites, they don't get it. They don't understand the human pain involved. They don't understand why this is a great moment for those families. And it's really sad, and it tells you why the Democrats are going to have such a hard time ever getting back into power, because they so clearly don't deserve it, and they don't represent average, everyday working Americans anymore.
This is an opportunity, I think, that those working Americans, those blue-collar workers, the heart and soul of America, I'm so glad I spent 2 decades of my life doing real work, because I do really appreciate the plight now of what I call the forgotten man that came out in droves this election and voted. And it means a lot to them. And this is now an opportunity. If Trump can take the money that's being repatriated by multinational corporations and incentivize them to build in Detroit and Milwaukee and Cleveland and Philly and other cities that really desperately need help, and if he could go to all of these cities where their schools are dilapidated and broken down and the kids are getting horrible educations and give parents parents the choice that he's talked about giving them, I think there might be a demographic shift potential here, the likes of which maybe could happen once every 3 generations. I'd love to see that happen.
I think that's right. And I think whether you're African American or Latino or Asian or you're white, if you care about your job and you care about your family and you care about your take-home pay, all of a sudden Donald Trump looks like a pretty impressive guy because you see him helping people just like you. And then you listen to these left-wing liberals on television, and you know that they have no understanding of the human cost of unemployment, and that they are just simply out of touch with your reality.
That's the thing. I mean, I remember what it was like to live paycheck to paycheck. I really do. And look, I know your life background too, and you were working as a professor for all those years. You weren't exactly being paid a whole lot of money, but it was a passion and a love of yours. I got into radio working for free and for very, very little money for a long period of time because I loved it. But, I know what it's like to struggle to pay your rent every month, and I had great landlords that would let me do work for them. People, look at the cost of Obamacare that ended up being $4,100 on average, an increase since Obama's been president per family. I mean, that is such a huge percentage of people's income. That's their new car. That's their new truck. That's part of the money they were planning on using for a down payment for their house. That's a lot of money. And I think those are the people that have been suffering because of failed government policies. And in spite of whatever the media tried to say about Trump, he was able to transcend it because he was talking to those people in real language and real, regular, not Washington speak.
Well, and they knew it. I mean, they were picking up on it. And so the average everyday working American understood this is a guy who knows, partly because, of course, Trump has spent so much of his life working with people just like them. I mean, you don't build these big buildings and you don't build the various hotels and things that Trump has built without knowing how to work with people who put on blue jeans and put on boots and go out and do real work and get a little bit dirty because that's what it takes to build one of those buildings.
People still make fun of me because I wear jeans every day, even on television, and I'm like, well, it's kind of what I grew up with, and I don't like to change, and suit pants don't feel that comfortable anyway. I mean, it's really...
Plus, I know you. You're really frugal, and you have to have your suit pants, you have to take them to the cleaner. These just throw in the washing machine.
No, that's not it at all. As a matter of fact, Fox buys me all my suits, and they even at one point said, why do we even buy you pants? You never wear them. But they'll buy me as many as I want, to be honest, and they even get them clean for me. They do everything. They take care of it all. I'm one of these pampered television hosts now. That's the other funny thing, too. These are all TV people, and I've said this on air before, and I'll say it again, and it's probably to my detriment to tell the truth. We're all overpaid in television. We're all treated better than we deserve. And many of these people don't deserve the things that they have, but they seem to have lost touch with what real life is for most people. And real life is you get up every day, you raise your kids, you work your 12 or 14 hours a day, you pay your taxes, you struggle to get a down payment for a home, you struggle to buy a new car, you make your car payments, and you're just trying to get ahead in life and put a little away for your retirement years so you can buy a place at the Villages and live happily ever after. But they're the people that make the country work, that make the country great. And globalism has really hurt them. And we haven't factored in the human cost and the human toll here.
Well, I think that's right. And that's why I think the left, which is so much Hollywood and the news media and folks who make really big incomes, and they're really out of touch with normal Americans. So Trump, who is obviously a very rich guy, he's even richer than you,
Really? Why does everyone love taking that shot? It's like, what do I have on the back of my shirt here? Kick me, hit me, punch me, beat me? Well, I mean, it must say something.
No. If you take it off and look, it says, please make fun of me.
Yeah. And you enjoy it more than anybody.
Well, I've known you longer than most people, and I have to say, yeah, I think you often deserve it. And
by the way,
I want to make sure you get what you deserve.
Well, just for the record, the first time I interviewed you was in 1990 in a Holiday Inn in Decatur, Alabama.
Right.
And in case you're interested how much I was making as a radio talk show host that year, it was $19,000 a year.
And given the size of the audience that year, it was probably proportionate to what you now make. I know about how big your audience was.
But then why did you do the show?
Because right. I wanted to help this guy on the way up, this guy who had a potential. And by the way, our audience ought to know, you were wearing blue jeans.
I think I was.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure I was. No, but I had a tie and a jacket on. Give me credit.
Oh, I know. That's because you were on the way up.
Okay,
and this was your first big shot, and here was this outside guy, and
yeah.
You had a chance to actually be there with somebody from Washington. I mean, I think you actually prepared questions and stuff.
I did. I actually prepared in great detail, more than I do now. You're right.
I was going to say, we're not going to get into the difference in preparation between the early years. And
you want to know the truth? I never stopped preparing. Now I work harder than I've ever worked. That's the truth. But you think back in those days, Mr. Speaker, I only had the local papers and national magazines, and that was it.
Yeah.
I had no other prep. The internet didn't exist as we know it. Al Gore had not created it.
Isn't it astonishing how much material you can now get to? You get inundated. I find I spend about 2 hours a day just wading through stuff, just sort of trying to figure out what I need to know. It's unbelievable how much is available.
No, it's true. And by the way, you share anything good that you find with me, and so do so many other people. And just sifting through it, I mean, I get a pile every day that is the size of a 1,500-page, 2,000-page book. And I have to sift through that before, and that's on top of my own reading of the internet, but that's just what my staff gives me. You know, everyone's assigned certain websites to go through every day, and I tell them to print more rather than less, and then I sift through it, keep the stuff I want, then I read it in detail, and then I'm preparing. So I'm very fortunate to have a staff, which I never had back then. I used to run my own board. By the way, I work 7 days a week because I ran NASCAR on Saturdays and Sundays.
Well, by the way, I don't know if you do this right, but, Callista in high school was the voice of WHTL in Whitehall, Wisconsin. Now, she was a disc jockey. They were playing music, but literally Western Wisconsin's country radio station. So she identifies with both you and Rush, although the two of you went on to rather larger careers than she did. But she was out there as a high school student running the boards and doing the whole thing and actually closing the station down at midnight.
Well, I got to let you go here, but Mr. Speaker, love having you. You've been such a big help this year, and we look forward to talking to you a lot during the new year and the first 100 days. Thank you, sir.
It'll be great. Take care.